Hey friends, Katie here with For the Love of Leftovers. Thanks for joining me again in my kitchen. Last video we did 5 nostalgic chicken dinner recipes for my millennial friends, 90 babies, 80 babies, you know who I'm talking about. Today we are going to continue with the nostalgic recipes, again recipes that I grew up with, and I'm sure you probably grew up with these or a variation of them. We're gonna make some adjustments to them. We're gonna retry them. These ones here that I'm doing today are actually ones that I do quite often. The other video that we did, those are ones that I actually haven't done before or haven't done in a very long time. These ones are kind of my tried and true recipes, good fallbacks. These are just great, also autumn recipes. They really have all the fall vibes and all the feels, okay? So we're gonna get into it today. Let me tell you what we have coming up. We have French onion soup, a great one to use for the fall harvest of onions that you've got. We're doing shepherd's pie, a really great, easy one pot dish, one casserole to just feed your entire family. You've got the meat, the starches, the vegetables, super easy, flavorful, and really easy to manipulate based on your family's needs. And then we have corn chowder. This was a staple for my mom, one of her go-to recipes. And if you are like me and you continuously stock up on things like evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk, those kinds of canned milks, and yet you never seem to use them, this is a great recipe that we're going to use the evaporated milk in. Again, a super budget-friendly soup that's gonna feed a lot of people. Speaking of budgets, for us, American chopped suey, also known as goulash, there's a whole bunch of different names for this dish, but it is a pasta, burger, loose sauce, everything but the kitchen sink type of a dish that we had a ton as kids growing up. And it's one of my family's go-tos. My kids absolutely love it. It's pretty basic and it's easy to whip up on a night that you have a bunch of leftovers in the fridge or on a night that you really just don't know what to cook. And lastly, we're going to be doing Italian penicillin. So this is a relatively new recipe to me within the past few years. Thank you, TikTok. And if you're not over on TikTok or Instagram, I'm gonna leave my handles right there and you can check me out over there on the social medias. But I found this recipe on TikTok a few years ago and tried that in addition to my butternut squash soup and chicken noodle soup. It has become one of our go-to recipes. It's super quick, super easy, really flavorful, and great for, you know, sickness season or just all the fall vibes. And it does have some pasta in it as well. Okay, now that you know what we're cooking, let's get some prep going so that we can cruise through these recipes and have a week's worth of dinners done in just a few hours. If you're new here, my name is Katie and I love getting creative in the kitchen, getting creative with budget, with flavors, with time, all those things. The creativity just never stops. So if you need help, whether it be with meal planning, sticking to a budget, or just getting creative with the leftovers and the ingredients that you have in your kitchen, you're gonna wanna stick around and hit that subscribe button because I have plenty of recipes up on YouTube and to come to help you in all the ways that you need to get creative in your kitchen. So we are going to start with potatoes. I'm gonna start prepping the potatoes for my shepherd's pie and for my corn chowder. So I have a 4-pound bag here. I'm hoping that's going to be enough for both of these. I do have a bag of red potatoes that I can pull from if need be. Let's get these out and get a look at them. Oh yeah, we're gonna need our red potatoes for sure. So what I'm gonna do actually, now that I'm looking at this, I am going to use these yellow potatoes for our shepherd's pie because yellow potatoes make a better mashed potato versus a red potato. A red potato will do better in soup just because of starch content and how they hold up and things like that. So I am going to get these potatoes washed and then start peeling them. And then we're going to get the chunks of potatoes into this Dutch oven and get this boiling over the stove, and we'll start making our mashed potatoes and have those put to the side all ready to go for when we are ready to assemble. I am trying to be better about cleaning up as I go. So I used the bag here from the potatoes as my scrap bag. We don't have chickens anymore, but it is helping just as far as, you know, not dirtying another dish to have like a scrap bucket. And that way I can just then take the bag of potatoes or the bag that was potatoes and just toss them. Toss all the scraps after. Ooh, these potatoes are sticky. Sticky, sticky. This is one of my favorite knives. This is a Pioneer Woman knife I got from Walmart a few years ago. And it has consistently stayed sharp. And I usually have it down in my studio just as one of my kind of points of joy when I'm working. But I decided to bring it up here. I have a few knives that I really like. This is definitely one of them. Okay, we're almost there with this first set of potatoes. And we'll get this going over the stovetop. So I know shepherd's pie can look different based on, you know, your upbringing and what your family did. So I'd be interested to know what shepherd's pie looked like for your family. For me growing up, it was mostly ground beef and then a layer of just corn and then a layer of potatoes. And then I always ate mine with ketchup. I loved ketchup on mine. But I've seen in other places, some people do green beans. I believe my husband, he grew up with it being green beans or peas as the layer. My kids definitely seem to like the green beans. I'm doing a mixed vegetable can because I have 2 cans of it. So we're just going to use what's in our pantry. But you can use whatever you like as the filling in the center. Let me know if your family did something specific for this recipe. We're gonna have to start taking this stuff down also. Do you do Christmas early? Like, do you start decorating for Christmas early? Or does Thanksgiving actually have its own time to shine on your calendar? My husband is a big proponent of Thanksgiving getting the time and recognition that it deserves. Me, I'm like, we've had some fall decor up since, you know, September. So, or maybe, yeah, September or October. So let's, you know, change it up in November for Christmas. We shall see who wins out. All right, I've got these potatoes covered with water. I'm not gonna salt them or anything, just covering them with water. And now I've got the heat over a medium high, and we're gonna let this come to a boil. It's gonna take about 20 minutes. Okay, next thing I'm gonna get working on is the other potatoes, just so we can have potatoes cross off our list. So I've given these red potatoes a good scrub, removed any and all eyes off of them. And now I am just going to cut them into some about 1 to 2 inch size chunks. I know that's a bit of a difference. I want them to be able to be picked up with a spoon, right? So they don't need to be tiny. We don't want them to be huge. So I've cut the potato in half and then cut the half into thirds, and then chopping from there, okay? Some potatoes, just based on size, might need a little bit different of a cut, but that's pretty much what I'm doing with all of these. And so we've gotten all of the dirt off. I'm leaving the skins on because I like the look of a red potato. I think that pop of color, especially in a soup like corn chowder, where really the only color is the corn itself. Otherwise it's, you know, just kind of white and creamy and a little one note. So I want to add just a little bit of color and variety. We'll also add a little bit of color with herbs as well. Oh, we do need to get bacon going in just a moment. Haven't quite decided if I'm going to do bacon in the oven or if I want to do pieces of it in the Dutch oven or the pot where this is going to be cooked. That sounds like probably the better idea, but if I can cook something in a way that I don't really have to babysit it, that makes life a little bit easier, right? One of my favorite ways to cook bacon is actually in the air fryer. That I can just kind of set and forget. But where I'm recording, don't know that all of the air fryer noise and beeps and whatnot would be good for the audio of the video. So let's figure out which way we're going to do that. I think I'll probably just cut it up a bit, cut it into chunks, and then see this big potato here. I almost called it an onion. This big potato I'm going to have to cut into thirds. She's a biggin. And then thirds again. I'm also waiting on some ingredients from my husband. He went out with the kids to do some errands, including getting me a few ingredients that we didn't have. So I'm also trying to do what I can now and then finish things up when he gets home. I have most of the things here that I need though. I can feel a little bit of dirt on a couple of these. Just using a paper towel to wipe it off. All right, this is our last one. Okay, so now we're done with our colander for now. Okay, we will need that again in a little bit. Okay, well, I'm still trying to figure out what way I want to cook these. I think we're just going to do it right in the Dutch oven. And I'm going to trim the bacon, cut it up into little chunks so that it cooks faster. That'll be easy enough. my nice little trash bag right here. In theory, you could get away with doing a ½ pound of bacon because all of this bacon is going to the corn chowder. But some of it I want to be in the soup, and the other portion I want to be reserved for topping. We could also put some on the Italian penicillin soup. That would be delicious. Anything with bacon is just better, right? Plus some of this, in all honesty, probably will get eaten before we get a chance to use it. Okay, I'm going to use this big pot because this is what we're actually going to make our corn chowder in. I'm going to put it over medium. I'm actually going to throw a little bit of olive oil in the bottom, just so when I put my bacon in, it doesn't stick before it has a chance to render down, because then you'll end up with actually some burnt pieces, and we don't want that if we can help it. So then I'm just going to start peeling apart my bacon chunks. You could use salted pork, you could use bacon ends, you could use pieces of ham. It doesn't have to be bacon. I mean, this is really optional. Anyhow, you don't have to use pork for it, but it really does give it just a great flavor. Adds in a good amount of salt. We won't actually salt anything until the end because we're going to have all of this bacon. And this is store-bought bacon. The bacon that I get from my parents is definitely not as salty. I find that I can actually only have about 2 pieces of this bacon, this store-bought stuff, before I'm like, okay, I can't anymore, just because it is that salty. I'm really looking forward to getting bacon from my parents when our pigs are done. It's always an exciting day and a good week of cooking following that. All right, we're going to do a little bit right now. I still have plenty over here that I still need to pull apart, but I don't want to crowd this too much. And we need to turn our potatoes down. We've got the boiling happening. I'm going to start the timer. 17 minutes for these potatoes to boil. Okay, these little bacon bits have been going for just a little bit. We now have a good amount of bacon grease down at the bottom. I'm going to take out most of these. I still see a few that need a little more time cooking, so I'm going to try and leave the ones that need a little bit more time. I've just got a slotted spoon here. Let that grease drip down, and then put them onto a paper towel lined plate. Pull these up. And I've turned the heat down to a medium-low so that we're not burning any of the bacon, because that would just be a sad day. Now I'm just going to keep adding bacon until we have all of it cooked. Got about 7 minutes left on those potatoes for my shepherd's pie. So that's coming along. I don't want to do anything else right now. Like, I could chop onions and be prepping things, but I really don't want to risk any of this bacon getting burnt or something happening, because this is one of our most expensive ingredients. So let's make sure that we are doing our due diligence with it and not wasting any of it by accident or on purpose. All right, I've got potatoes done. I'm gonna rinse them real quick with some cold water just to get any excess starch off. Not soaking them in any way, just a little bit off of there. Back into the Dutch oven we go. I am going to make these what I call JJ friendly. JJ is my youngest and he is allergic to eggs and dairy. So I am going to make these in a way that he can have them. So we're grabbing a very large chunk of butter there. A little bit more even. That's still less than a half cup, which I would usually throw an entire stick in here. And then we use oat milk for him. So let's see here. I'll be a good chef and measure a little bit for you. I'm going to start with half a cup. Okay, then I've got my favorite masher, kind of like a favorite burner. I have my favorite potato masher. These wire ones, these metal wire ones, are just such a breeze to clean. Okay, we're definitely going to need more milk. There's that butter. I'm going to add more butter too, I think. You know, it's just not the same as my normal mashed potatoes. So we will go for about a half cup. Come on. Really preferred it when my grocery store was carrying the sticks of his butter. A little bit more, about a quarter cup there. Could also use chicken stock if you wanted to go dairy free. This is dairy free. I'm just saying another option. Add in even a little more. So that would be a cup total. I'm looking for the right consistency. I want it to be soft, not soupy. Yes, that's looking soft. Making sure most of the chunks are out of here. Could use a food processor to get this even smoother. Okay, so that's nice and smooth. What I'm going to do, got about a tablespoon or so of bacon grease I'm going to just add in there. This will add flavor and a little bit of salt. My youngest loves bacon. All my kids do. Let's give this a try. See where we're at. A little more bacon grease. I'm gonna add some salt here. We do still need some salt. That's maybe a half a teaspoon. Add a quarter teaspoon pepper. Give this a mix and try it again. You could add in garlic powder, onion powder, really anything to mashed potatoes. Yeah, that's better. All right, that's good. So now I'm just going to set this to the side, waiting on my, I'm making a mess over here. Waiting on the ground beef to get here. It's one of the things that my husband had to go out and get. So I'm just going to set this to the side, put a cover on it, and we'll move on to the next item. Okay, so the way my mom said she made corn chowder, I'm gonna go a little bit differently, okay? So she said she boiled the onions and potatoes until they were tender, drained the liquid partially, and then added in a bunch of items, okay, which we will get to. Where I want to go a little bit differently, and I know this is going to end up making my end product not look perfectly white, is I want to saute some of these onions in that bacon grease, because that's just a ton of flavor, salt, all the good things, right? So that's going to yield a, you know, an end product that is not perfectly white in the way that hers is. But I think I'm willing to take that risk, because a little bit of sauteed onions in bacon grease, I mean, how can we say that that's a bad thing, right? So I've got one huge yellow onion here. I got a whole bag from a local farm stand for super cheap, and I need to start making my way through them. So I am just dicing these up into bite-sized pieces. Woo! Crying my way through it. I did burn the bottom of my pan a little bit, so I am going to kind of scrape out all the burnt bits. I don't want any of that burnt flavor in the finished soup. So what I did was pour the bacon grease into our bacon grease cup, and now I'm just going to put a little bit of that back in. And then I rinsed out didn't rinse it out, I cleaned out the burnt pieces. You can hear the pot is still nice and hot. So I'm adding in all of my onions. I'm gonna let these cook a bit. And as these cook and kind of sweat, it's also gonna help to release all the stuff that's a bit stuck on the bottom. It's gonna help to deglaze this pot in a way. Okay, let's bring this back over to the stove, get it cooking. Once these are nice and tender, then I'm gonna add in the potatoes and a whole bunch of water. Okay, just going medium low. I've got our entire plate of bacon all done. Try and get all of these onions coated with that bacon grease and get them split up a bit. If you choose to omit the bacon, that is completely fine. You're just going to want to do it the way that my mom did, which would be filling a pot of water and boiling the potatoes and the onions together. And once they're tender, then you're going to drain off about half of the water and then continue on adding things like your corn and your other inclusions. Okay, these are starting to actually cook. You can see they're starting to get a little tender, a little translucent around the edges. We've got pretty much everything off of the bottom here as far as stuff from the bacon. So I'm going to add in our potatoes and water now. Okay, so you're just filling this to about 1 inch or 2 above the potato line. Okay, we're not filling the pot, but we want it enough so that everything is fully submerged and some of it will evaporate. So you want to make sure that there's enough water that as it evaporates, once it comes to a boil, that those potatoes are still covered. Okay, next thing we're going to get going is croutons. Croutons are definitely going to be used with our French onion soup, possibly this one, the corn chowder, and the Italian penicillin soup. That would be great also. So I made bread the other day, and when I tell you I came out this morning, my kids had tore into it. They tore into it like little gremlin hands pulling apart the bread. So what I did, since it was no longer able to be sliced as bread, I said, okay, I will cut this up into chunks and we will make croutons today. No big deal. So I've just got a bunch of bread here and I am just going to drizzle the olive oil over it. Don't need it to be soaked through, but a good amount of olive oil to try and coat most sides. This is going to get nice and dried out in the oven. That olive oil is going to help it kind of crisp up and also going to help these seasonings that we're going to add stick to it. So I'm just going to kind of keep tossing it by hand, get everything nice and coated. Now we're going to add in some salt and pepper, just a little bit, maybe 1/4 teaspoon of salt, even less pepper. And then I'm going to use this organic no salt seasoning from Costco. Haven't been able to use it as much as I would like, and so many people on YouTube just rave about it, so I figured this would be a great seasoning on a crouton. You can use Italian seasoning, you can do no seasoning at all, but I like a little bit of flavor on mine. Definitely lots of crumb pieces. Let's give one of these a taste. Yeah, that'll be good. Maybe even a little more salt. No, okay. I think we're going to leave it like that. I've got the oven to 350. It's kind of my go-to temperature. And, you know, some things are just going to take longer at 350. That's okay. What I'm going to do, actually, you know what what I'm going to do is I actually have a pizza pan here. And this pizza pan has holes all through it. So I'm going to dump out these croutons. And yes, some of the little finer pieces might fall through the holes. That's okay. But now we have croutons all ready to go in the oven, and we're going to get airflow from the bottom as well as the top. Okay, my husband has gotten home and got me the ingredients that I needed. So we're going to start finishing the shepherd's pie. Okay, so I've got a 3-pound block of ground beef here, 85/15. You could use 80/20. You can use a leaner cut. Doesn't matter. Okay, you can even do this with lamb. You could even do this with chicken, honestly, or ground turkey. That would be fine too. I'm just gonna eyeball this. I'm gonna take about 2/3 of this. Now I have a cast iron casserole dish, so that's what I'm going to cook my meat in, because I'm actually going to do the entire casserole right in here. So I'll cook the meat and then I will drain off the fat and just keep the meat right in here and build our casserole. 2 pounds for a 9x13 pan is great. Okay, so we don't actually have a whole lot of grease here, which is nice. I'm just going to kind of push this to the side, and then you can start to see the grease pool over here. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tip, tip, tip. And then use a paper towel just to sop up as much of the grease as I can. Got our little trash bag over here. We don't need to get all of it. Let's get as much as we can. Okay. So now that that cleaned up a bit, I am going to turn the heat completely off because this is a cast iron, so it's gonna keep being hot. Secret weapon, this Lipton French onion soup dip mix, which is one of my favorite things that my mom did growing up. She would mix one of these bags with sour cream and make it into a chip dip. So we're also gonna add it here with the meat and just stir it around a little bit. I might add in a little bit of water, though there's going to be water with those vegetables. So let's just mix it all up. I am going to add a little bit of water. I've decided just a half cup. We're not going crazy. I just want to make sure that any of that seasoning gets dissolved and mixed in with that meat. Definitely could have done all 3 pounds of burger in here. Would have given us a really nice thick layer of burger. That's okay. All right, now we're going to flatten this all out. And then I've got 2 cans of mixed vegetables. Kind of have to like shake them all over because they're kind of layered in the can. Woo! A lot more carrots in here than anything else. I might add, I think I'm going to add a can of corn also. This is just whole kernel sweet corn. Woo! Okay, so 3 cans of vegetables there. Kind of a nice, almost sneaky way of getting more vegetables in for the kids. This used to be one of my favorite dishes, and we have not had it in a very long time. Okay, now that that's all done, now I'm going to add our mashed potatoes. Kind of just plop them on in a way that you can spread them out a little easy. If you put them all at one end and then have to push it, you're going to end up grabbing all of what's underneath with it. Same with cakes. You kind of plop the frosting on in about the area that you want it, and then smooth from there. Nice thick layer of potatoes. And then take a cake spatula or a frosting spatula or a silicone spatula, something that's going to be able to help you smooth out the potatoes. Okay, you can top this with cheese, you can top it with herbs, anything you want. I am going to put it just like this into a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes. All we need is for everything just to get nicely warmed. I am going to do a little drizzle of olive oil on top. And there's our croutons, looking great. Our potatoes and onions are coming along nicely. Here are our croutons, looking golden brown and scrumptious. Okay, don't mind the mess going on here. Our potatoes are done in our what will be corn chowder. So I'm gonna drain off a little bit of it. I have the colander in the sink just to catch anything that comes out with it, like some onions are probably gonna come out with it, and then we'll just put them right back into the pot, but I do wanna drain some of that liquid. Okay, I am draining just until the water practically covers the potatoes. Let me show you. You can see now that everything has cooked down, look how much liquid we just got rid of. And it's still covering everything in there, okay? So you're getting rid of about half of the liquid. Okay, let's get our onions back in. Return this to the stove, which is off, but we'll put in everything at the stove. Okay, so now I am putting in 2 whole cans of whole kernel corn, drained. Okay, make sure these are drained. Make sure these are not the creamed corn that we're putting in next, because that would be a bummer to try and start draining creamed corn. But anyhow, we're putting in now 2 cans of the cream corn. And now 2 cans of evaporated milk, or 3 cups. This is going to prevent it from curdling. We're going to stir this around, let it get nice and warm all together. And as you can see, those potatoes are still nice in cube form. They haven't like wilted away or smooshed or anything. I'm just putting the heat on low just so we can get things simmering and working together. And I'm also going to do a little something extra just to zhuzh it up a little bit. I'm going to put in a little bit of thyme and sage. I feel like those herby flavors are going to work well with potatoes and corn. So I'm just taking this whole stock here, and while this is simmering, I'm just going to place it in there and let it get to know everyone, and then I'm going to pull it out. We're not going to keep it in there. Same with thyme. I'm just putting in 3 or 4 sprigs. I'm not even taking the thyme off. I'm just going to place it right in. And as it heats, those flavors are going to develop in there. And if any of the thyme leaves come off, I'm not worried about it at all. I'm just not trying to keep the thyme leaves in there. I'm also going to taste it right now for salt. Okay, I do feel like it needs salt. So let's do a teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of black pepper. Again, just going to mix this. Let everything get to know each other and get incorporated. Really just simmer this, maybe 10 minutes, and then you'll be ready to plate.
Wanna catch myself on the wayside. Only takes one look into your eyes, and I won't be.
Okay, next item we're gonna work on doing is our American chopped suey. So I've got a pound of ground beef right here, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to it. This American chopped suey is super simple and very versatile. You can add what you want, not add what you want. It's just a really easy dish and pleases most children. My autistic son that does not eat anything besides angel hair pasta does not like this because it's got elbow noodles, but he'll eat the meat from it. So again, most children will be happy with this. All right, our shepherd's pot pie is done. Not exactly browned like I was hoping, but it is definitely done. There we go. If we had some texture up on top here, it would have browned, and if I had used butter, it also would have browned. So this, you can see where it started to over here where there's some spots up, but this is completely done and ready to serve. Meanwhile, let's get back to our American goulash here, American chop suey rather. Just gonna get this all browned and cooking. And then I also have a pot of water going over here that we're gonna get our elbows boiling. And like I said before, this is definitely a everything but the kitchen sink type of a meal. Today I am going to add peppers and onions and canned tomatoes and garlic to our meat mixture over there. Might have some other items that I can put in, but off the top of my head, those are the items I can think of. Sometimes less is more. Less ingredients in a dish make it less overwhelming, keeps more food on your shelves, in your fridge, in your freezer, your pantry, right? So less is more in your budget. So if we can make a delicious meal using minimal ingredients, that's a pretty big win, right? Especially with today's economy, prices of food rising. But this is a great one if you've got food, produce especially, that is starting to go bad in your fridge. Like if you've got mushrooms. Ooh, actually I've got mushrooms. You could do that. Got onion here. I am not using this whole onion. Not using this whole onion because my children will protest. If I cut them big enough, they can eat around them. Or if I cut it small enough to where they can't, well, then they're going to eat them. So we'll see what happens today. But I've got about a half of an onion here, very large onion, so let's do half. This is going to be some really great flavor. I mean, how can you not love the smell of peppers and onions? It's one of my favorite. It's one of those things that I really like meal prepping is peppers and onions and just having them caramelized and already in the fridge waiting for me, because then I throw them into things like omelets in the morning when I'm too lazy and tired still to be doing fresh onions and peppers. Ooh, ooh, that one. That onion was coming back with some vengeance. Okay, I'm still waiting on some things to cook, so I'm actually going to continue with onions since my knife is already dirty from onions. I'm going to start prepping the ingredients for the Italian penicillin. Have that ready to go for when those elbows get done, because then I can drain those elbows and refill it, get the water going again so that I can cook the ditalini pasta. All right. Whew, wow. These are some ripe onions, that's for sure. Ooh, this might be a redo my makeup kind of an onion. Tell you what, I am not looking forward to cutting all the onions for French onion soup. Okay, our burger is almost cooked through, so I'm gonna add in peppers and onions. That way our burger doesn't get overcooked. I am also gonna add in a little bit of bacon grease just for flavor. And a little bit more fat to help. One of the great things about this Italian penicillin soup is that everything can be roughly chopped, because it does end up getting pureed at the end. So we can be less precise. And then I'm also keeping the skins on my carrots. I have washed them well to get any dirt off, but the skin on your carrot is actually full of fiber and helps with digestion. So especially in a recipe like this that you're trying to get any and all benefits from your vegetable or food item, let's leave it on, right? Benefits us, then let's leave it on. So I'm going to put a large onion in there. I have 2 carrots. Now we're going to do 2 stalks of celery, 2 ribs of celery. Again, rough chop is fine. This is where we need our Parmesan rind. So this is not a dairy-free recipe. This is optional, but I mean, you ask an Italian, they're probably going to tell you it is not optional. And now I need to grab a bunch of our homemade chicken stock, because now we need to fill this with chicken stock. In the original recipe, it does not call for these added ingredients, but I am adding them because they're good for you. We're going to add in just a little bit of garlic. Garlic really does have some natural healing properties. And I'm going to add in a stick of rosemary right in there. That I will pull out at the end before we puree it. Also need to keep an eye on our beef over here. Those onions and peppers need to cook some more, but I don't want that beef getting dried out. So I have 2 cans right here of diced tomatoes, and I'm going to add them to the skillet with their liquid so that we get the peppers and onions boiling a little bit in there. I'm going to add about a can of water to this, again, just to kind of help those onions and peppers get nice and tender. We don't want a ton of sauce in this. Ooh, actually, I've got a little bit of pasta sauce. I'm gonna add in a little bit of pasta sauce. Homemade stuff. Just enough to really keep those onions and peppers covered. And we're just gonna kind of let these simmer on here and some of that liquid evaporate, because this is not a saucy dish typically. It's not the same as pasta with meat sauce, if that makes sense. Our pasta water is ready too, and I did add salt to it. So we have a whole pound of elbows. I'm going to stir it immediately so that nothing sticks to the bottom. Oh, we don't need the oven on anymore. All right, so as I was saying, chicken broth is clearly one of the reasons this is a feel-good soup. All of the health benefits. Let's see if I can. Can I get it off? There we go. Loads of good stuff. Seasonings. I just added 2 in there. I think that's actually enough. I brought up 3. I'm just gonna do 2. Okay, here's a look at this. This is gonna go on the oven, and we're gonna bring this to a boil, just over medium heat. Okay, elbow macaroni is done. I'm going to drain this. You want it to be al dente, okay? Whew. And then we're going to fill it right back up so that we can cook our ditalini. Actually, you know what? That says the ditalini recipe that I'm following says that you only need a cup of it. So we're not going to use the whole pound box, which means I'm going to put this right back in here. Bring it back over to the stove. The stove is currently off, so I am just going to dump this skillet right in. And now we're just going to stir this all around. Usually I do this with green peppers, but orange is what I have today. As you can see, it's not saucy. This is not pasta with meat sauce, okay? This is American chop suey. So we've got that all stirred up there. I'm gonna give it a taste just for salt and pepper, seasonings. Okay, see, a very simple dish, very kid-friendly. When I tell you that is perfection, I mean it. That is perfection. And that is done. Another recipe ready to go. You can even jazz this up with some fresh parsley over the top or some melted cheese on top, which is probably what my kids will do. They'll put on some shredded mozzarella. Really an easy, family-friendly, everyone likes it kind of a dish.
Wishes on satellites. Used to stay up at night, hoping one day that the stars would align. left a trail of broken hearts, but you were different from the start. How you smiled when you said my name that night. It's like I dreamed you.
Okay, we've got our Italian penicillin soup starting to boil over here. And then I did just a small pot of water here for the ditalini to get that going. So these ones are working, or this one rather, because this is going to be for that once it's pureed. We've got all this over here that is being served out for lunch and enjoyed. And lastly, I need to get working on the French onion soup. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is get the ends taken off 6 of these large onions and get the outside off. And I want to try to preserve the shape. So I am going to, do I want to preserve? I just had this thought. Yeah, okay. I want to try to preserve the shape. I feel like I might change my mind partway through, but anyhow, let's get these onions prepped. This is a very quick soup once you can get the onions peeled. It should all come together pretty quickly, because really what's happening is we're sauteing the onions and then putting them into a beef broth. Oh, this one, yeah, so I might have to change my plan because this one has rings inside of it that aren't good. This one has a few parts inside that aren't good. So I guess I will be making the decision to slice these in half. Ooh. Oh, that one's not good either. Should be able to cut around it. Ooh, these are making my eyes water though. Yep, executive decision made. We are slicing these in half. Makes it a little easier to peel off the outside edge as well. My eyes are stinging like crazy. Ooh, I know you can't see it, but wow. Whew. Once I get these sliced open like this, I'm going to take them to a mandolin. That way they are all, it's all quick for one, and two, it gets them all the same size. I am just peeling out the center portions that are not good. Okay, let's see if we can make some short work of this. This is probably the equivalent of 4 large onions. Oh, I wanted to do it this way. Okay, so some onions, don't be like me. Please use the guard that comes with these. I have this set to a 1/8 inch slice. Thank you. So as I slice these onions and get a big pile like this, I'm just going to dump them right into my Dutch oven here. So again, I'm doing it on this side down so that I get those nice curls in your spoonful.
now I know better. Locked in my head, romanticizing forever. Last love I found, knees met the ground and all my roses died. Swore I was through, but looking at you, I think I changed my mind. Yeah, let's fall in love for the fun of it. Dive in at first and all of it. Oh, what a rush looking into your eyes, playing it off like it's different this time. Let's break our own hearts for the fun of it.
Okay, I think our vegetables here are actually done. So I'm going to add about a cup's worth of this ditalini pasta. Give it a little stir there. Let's see if these are, the onions are definitely done. I feel like maybe some of the carrots need a little bit longer. This is our pot of onions for our French onion soup. I know it looks like a lot, but it is going to cook down substantially. So I'm just going to put that over medium, and I'm going to get a full stick of butter going in there to help this get, we're not exactly looking for caramelized, but we do want to get them tender and sweating down a bit. So I'm just going to break that in half, put one on each side, and have that butter start melting. I'm also going to add in some salt and pepper. We're going to do just a teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of pepper. You can hear it start to sizzle already. Let's not forget about our little pastas over here. We don't want them sticking to the bottom. Make sure that you're stirring it pretty consistently. I am going to add a little bit of garlic just to the top of this. I don't want it burning while these reduce down. So by the time the onions get all softened and reach the bottom, then the garlic will be good to start sauteing. All right, this is ready to puree. So we're just going to use an immersion blender, add our pasta, and then we will be done with this one. Now that it's wilting down a bit, I'm just going to kind of keep stirring things, waiting for everything to get cooked and translucent for the most part. Get all of it covered in butter and the salt and pepper. Got the garlic in there doing its thing now. This will continue to cook down even more because that top half hadn't even really hit the heat yet. This is the Italian Penicillin. There's still a few chunks in here, but whatever, it's okay. I would recommend doubling this, especially if you're going to do the immersion blender. It just needs more liquid in order to work properly. And I forgot about the Parmesan rind in here, so I can actually feel it on the bottom of the Dutch oven here. It's kind of melted to the bottom a bit. But I do have myself a bowl already topped with croutons, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Okay, now that we've started getting some golden color on these, I'm going to add this huge thing of thyme, and I'm going to add in our beef stock. Okay, adding in beef stock, and I need to add a little bit of Worcestershire, and then this is going to cook for a bit. All right, see how nice and golden brown that is? Looks delicious. I'm going to plate this or bowl it up in this little croquette. I have some bread in the toaster oven trying to dry it out a little bit. Then we're going to put a sprinkling of Gruyere cheese on top. Get it under the broiler, which you need to turn on. Get it all nice and melty. The other option is using some of our croutons. You can place some of those on top. Before I even do any of that though, I'm going to make sure that my rack is on top shelf. I am going to get out I know this is overkill for this one little croquette, but I'm going to get out a sheet pan so I don't risk spilling it. There's our toast. And I'm going to shave some cheese real quick, because as soon as we get that bread on there, you want to pop it under the broiler. Otherwise, it'll just start soaking up the liquid, which is fine if you're using a thicker piece of bread or something like sourdough. That's typically how this would be served, is with a piece of sourdough on top, and pretty thick at that. So we're going to just be ready to go so we can throw this right into the oven. Okay, we're just doing the one right now, so that'll be enough cheese. Is it ever really enough cheese? So I've got this piece of bread. I'm going to take this little ring here from canning, this canning ring, just to get me a circle here. Okay, nice and brown on both sides. Pop that in there as best we can. Cheese going right over it. Now into the oven real quick, right under that broiler. And that should really only take a hot minute. Alright, so my broiler is not playing nice, but we've got a little bit of cheese melted on there. And that right there is some French onion soup. My mom is going to be happy to get a bowl of that. So here's another look at everything that we made today. Really in just a few hours or an afternoon, we have everything from Italian penicillin soup with little noodles. We have corn and potato chowder. We have a plate full of bacon and our croutons over here, so these can kind of go on any of our soups. Speaking of soup, we've got our French onion soup right here. Plus we have a quick and easy shepherd's pie with amazing mashed potatoes. And then a childhood favorite, we've got the American chopped suey. Again, this was all quick, easy, made from scratch, semi-homemade, whatever it is you want to call it. Either way, we've got plenty of food to put in the fridge or the freezer, or at least 5 different meals for the week to come. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you got some great inspiration for some fall vibe foods and some honestly super cheap meals. These are definitely what I would call budget friendly. We've got some crossover ingredients between noodles and ground beef. We're using up bread that had gotten dug into. We've got a whole lot going on here, a lot of different varieties flavor wise, but all really simple and easy dishes, like I said, with crossover ingredients. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you got inspired, and I will see you in the next video where we are tackling some Christmas treats. I have a big plan to do 25 different cookie treat ideas for the month of December, with one recipe coming out every day in December, but you guys are going to get it sooner because I'm going to do a video that has a whole bunch of treats, because I believe we should bring back the cookie tins of Christmas. So I will see you in the next video where we will start working on those. Ooh, or possibly Thanksgiving. Do you want to see some Thanksgiving side dishes, how to cook a turkey? Let me know down in the comments and I will gear my response towards your wishes. All right, have a great day. Bye.